Hi, it's New Year's Eve, and there are two anniversaries today. Both from Chicago, one from 1917 and one from 1986. And both of them illustrate, I think, the failures of law enforcement regarding abortion. The 1917 death was a 40-year-old homemaker named Victoria. She died in her Chicago home from an abortion perpetrated by Wilhelmina Ben, who was a licensed midwife. Um, Now, Ben went on to be acquitted in Victoria's death for reasons I haven't been able to determine. Um, she was clearly up to her eyeballs in abortion. She had her first the first abortion death attributed to her that I know of was in 1906, a woman named Ottilia. And then I don't know the outcome of that case. Ben might have been arrested, prosecuted, incarcerated, because there was a 10-year gap between Ottilia's death and the death of a woman named Rosie in 1916. And Ben was also acquitted in Rosie's death, even though there was some pretty strong testimony. So I really, one of these days, need to go to Chicago and dig down and find out what's going on. And this is something the pro-life movement needs to look at. If we do manage to get abortion recriminalized, why is it that they can kill women and 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 wind up not in prison? The 1986 death, this just illustrates the depraved indifference to even the women's lives that a lot of these abortion practitioners show. And it underscores that you can't just trust them. And you cannot trust the abortion rights movement to warn you of them. Although, to their credit, the Chicago newspapers did cover this, and they covered it as if it was a serious matter. The Chicago Sun-Times had done a big expose in the early to mid 1970s. I think it was actually 1978. Called "The Abortion Profiteers." So every so often, the reporters do become responsible and stop pretending as though abortion problems are just these isolated incidents. It was New Year's Eve in 1986. Arnold Bickham had previously worked for some less savory other abortion clinics in Chicago before opening his own place. And Sylvia was in the second trimester of her pregnancy, but Bickham went ahead with a suction procedure only really appropriate in the first trimester. And according to her mother, Sylvia was bleeding, weak, and unable to walk after the abortion. She tried to stand up and collapsed. And Bickham just called her lazy, put her in a wheelchair, and physically ejected her from the clinic. Sylvia's mother took her to a nearby hospital, but she was already close to dead when she was there. She had no pulse or blood pressure. They did an emergency hysterectomy to remove her lacerated uterus, which still had a plastic instrument embedded in the laceration. But it was too late to save her. She bled to death during surgery. And to their credit, well, first of all, the coroner's office, the medical examiner's office, ruled Sylvia's death a homicide because of just the reckless endangerment of Sylvia's life. And the officials did ponder pressing charges against him, but nothing ever came of it. His license was revoked finally in 1988 due to Sylvia's death, but the next year he was arrested for practicing medicine without a license, sentenced to 30 months probation, 2,600 hours of community service in lieu of 6 months of jail, and a $10,000 fine. And that bitch slapping. He also got arrested for some other charges that were funny, but I can't remember what they were. I think he was hiding in a closet somewhere. It was just, Bickham was a piece of work. Eventually, he became a public school administrator, which, I mean, hooray, he wasn't doing any abortions anymore, but I still don't like the idea of this guy with his extremely poor judgment being allowed anywhere near children. Frankly, I think he belongs in jail.